Consulting seems like a very difficult industry to break into, and most firms accept less than 3% of their applicants, which is less than every Ivy League school. But these numbers don't need to worry you because I'll show you exactly how to land your dream consulting internship. Hi all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, make sure to subscribe because I upload weekly videos about internships, success, and productivity. In this video, I'll show you exactly how to land a consulting internship with your favorite firm, even if you have no business experience. So first, I'm going to talk about what you need to do to apply. First, you need to focus on your grades. Most firms have pretty strict GPA cutoffs when they're doing their resume screen. Some firms it'll be around a 3.5, while some can be up to a 3.8. It sucks, but if you don't have a high enough GPA, case prepping isn't going to help because your application is going to be automatically discarded. However, grades alone aren't going to get you an interview. You'll also need to show leadership experience as well. So secondly, get involved with a maximum of 3 orgs on campus and try to get leadership experience in some of them. Consulting firms are looking for future leaders to join them, so make sure you come off as both smart and a leader. Third, try to have some prior internship or project experience. This doesn't have to be in business or consulting, but if you have a Fortune 500 company internship, that's going to help you a lot in standing out during the application process. Fourth, you want to be an interesting person, so try to build out an additional dimension to your story or your personality. Consulting firms won't want to hire you if all you can do is talk about Excel and financial models. Take the time to become a well-rounded person who's also fun to work with. These are the kinds of stories that you'll also be able to tell in your behavioral interview. Then in your cover letter, demonstrate an interest in the firm by mentioning their clients, their charity work, and their organizational structure, as well as an interest in consulting in general. In my cover letter, I talk about how taking charge of a project during my previous summer internship and presenting to senior leadership piqued my interest in learning more about the business side. So next I'm going to tell you how to prepare for the behavioral interview. Most people think that the behavioral interview isn't that important, but it's actually super important for consulting, and it's equally as important as case interview. In fact, most firms will do the airport test. I learned about the airport test through an informational interview with a regional hiring manager, and what the airport test is after an interview, the interviewer will ask themselves would they want to be stuck in an airport with you. In the behavioral interview, you're going to have an opportunity to talk about your hobbies and interests. So what do they want to know? Through these added conversations, they want to see if you're going to be a good fit with the team, if you're interesting and personable, could they see themselves grabbing a coffee with you? And at meetings, will you embarrass them in front of the client? Or will you serve as a likable and friendly representation of the company? So here I have a list of the 10 most common behavioral interview questions. So the first is obviously going to be tell me about yourself and walk me through your resume. They're also going to be interested in why you're interested in consulting and specifically why you're interested in working for that firm specifically. Also, they're going to ask you what's something you've worked on outside of school. Tell me about a time you dealt with a tough problem, a time you led others, a time you had to convince someone to change their mind on something. And they're also going to ask you about your failures and what you like to do for fun. I'll make a separate video describing how to answer these questions in the best way possible, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. I've been asked these interview questions in every behavioral interview I have, so make sure you have a response prepared and don't just wing it. These questions test for whether you're hardworking, passionate about what you do, and are going to be a good team member. They're also going to use these questions to determine, are you good at problem solving? Are you able to persuade and motivate people? Are you coachable? Have you done your homework on what the consulting industry looks like? And do you have the right mannerisms and professionalism to work with clients? Consultants work together for over 8 hours a day, so the team wants to hire people they'd be willing to spend over 8 hours a day with. Additionally, top management consulting firms like McKinsey, Bain, and BCG get paid at least $500,000 per project, so if you're put in front of a client and you're not client ready, you're going to be costing the firm a lot. Once you have your responses to these behavioral questions prepared, practice your delivery. Record yourself answering these questions on your phone and then go over the recordings to make sure you're speaking at a normal pace and don't sound like a robot. So moving on to the case interview. Before my junior year, I had no experience doing case interviews or anything business related and never touched a case before, so I spent a lot of time practicing. 2 books that I highly recommend to start out with are Case in Point by Mark Cosentino and Case Interview Secrets by Victor Chang. In case interviews, they're looking for 3 main skills. The first is problem solving and numerical math skills. Your interviewer will probably ask you to solve a problem in a very structured way with some calculations. In simple terms, that means your interviewer will probably ask you to solve a question with a step-by-step approach and make it easy for the interviewer to understand. Secondly, they're testing for your creativity and business sense skills. Your interviewer will test you for the ability to come up with a range of ideas that make business sense to solve the client issue at hand. For instance, you could be asked to find a method to cut costs, help a restaurant grow sales, or expand into a new market. An important thing to note though is that these case interviews aren't actually going to test your business knowledge, so you don't have to have any prior knowledge of the specific industry that they're going to ask you about. Third, they're going to be testing for your communication skills. This includes how well you communicate and how you interact with others. As a consultant working with lots of clients, good soft skills are really necessary for success, so you'll want to show your interviewer that you can communicate well. You should try to communicate your ideas in a clear and structured way and follow a logical framework. Additionally, you need to speak confidently and persuasively, which will have a big impact on the impression that you make. As for the actual structure of the case, a normal case will follow the following structure. First, there's the situation. Second, there's going to be a framework. Third, there's going to be a quantitative question. Fourth, there's going to be a qualitative question. And finally, you're going to have a recommendation. So first, the interviewer is going to introduce you to the company and the business problem. So this is the framework problem where you're going to develop a framework and how you're going to approach the problem. You'll then be asked to solve one or more quantitative questions, and afterwards you'll be expected to outline some initial conclusions based on that data. In addition, at some point, you're going to be asked a creativity or brainstorming question. These are usually open-ended brainstorming questions, such as what other areas can this company focus on to increase its online sales? Finally, at the end of the case, the interviewer is going to ask you to make an overall recommendation on how to solve the company's business problem. Different firms will do cases differently. So for example, for McKinsey, the case is going to be more interviewer-led, where they'll have a specific set of questions and kind of guide you through the process. For other firms such as Bain and BCG, these are more interviewee-led cases, and this is where you're going to have to take more initiative in asking for information and guiding the case. The skills tested in both types of interviewers are the same. However, you should just expect slightly different behavior from the interviewer. So there are 4 main things you need to actually master the case interview part of the interview. First, you need to develop some math skills. It's almost impossible to crack case interviews without solving math problems quickly and accurately. This is because nearly every case interview is going to ask you some calculation questions, and you're not going to be able to use a calculator to solve them. When you start prepping for your case interviews, it's normal to be a little bit rusty in math, but as you practice, you should really start to see an improvement in your number crunching skills. This initial time investment provides the confidence needed to solve questions quickly and accurately during your actual interview. Second, you need to develop consistent and strong frameworks for the cases. As I mentioned previously, most cases follow a set structure, so it's therefore critical that you learn how to identify these types of questions and develop a consistent method of answering them. Approaching each question with a predefined framework will allow you to build strong habits that you can take into your actual interview. When you're actually interviewing, these habits are going to make a big difference in the flow and confidence of your answers. Third, you need to practice out loud. Another key element to succeeding in case interviews is practicing in real conditions. If you can practice case interviewing with a partner, this will help you progress much more quickly and receive a lot of feedback. However, when you're practicing by yourself, you can still recreate these casing conditions. Just practice out loud. While this may sound a little awkward at first, candidates that force themselves to use this technique progress much faster than others. When you practice out loud, you should practice both the role of the interviewer and the interviewee. So you should ask yourself the questions and then answer them out loud as if you were actually in the interview. The reason this technique works so well is because it forces you to communicate your technique to your interviewer. Finally, you need to learn and review from each case. To ensure that you're making the most of each case you practice, I recommend that at the end of the case, you write down exactly what you got wrong and the things that you learned. After a few days, then you should do the case again, and hopefully you'll see a lot of improvement this time. This approach will enable you to make sure that you're learning from each case and not making the same mistakes over and over again. Consulting interviews are challenging because there is a lot of competition for the jobs. Interviews can be a little bit intimidating, and there is quite a lot of ground to cover in your preparation. However, if you follow the tips in this video, it is completely feasible to get an internship from your dream consulting firm. Now, if you're also interested in learning how to get your first internship with no experience, or how to get a job in general during the pandemic, I highly recommend you watch my videos right here. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like, comment what kind of topics you'd like to see in the future, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next videos. As always, I appreciate you for watching and have a great day.